Hey guys, when you think about riding around the world on a motorcycle, there's probably one bike that comes to mind, and it's that bike right there. That is the BMW GS Adventure, and that one is a brand new 2019 model. And coming up in this video, we're going to not only review that bike, but we're going to take it in the dirt, we're going to take it on the road, and we're going to find out if that bike is indeed the Swiss Army knife of bikes. In other words, can you take it around the world, and can you do so with confidence both on the road and in the dirt? Now you guys might be wondering, why is the 2019 BMW GS Adventure new? Well, it starts right here. It's now a 1250cc motorcycle, and that means it's got more power, more torque, and according to BMW, better fuel economy. BMW says this bike puts out 136 horsepower and 106 pound-foot of torque, and on a combined loop, both highway, city, and maybe even dirt, gets about 50 mpg. Now I've been riding it for most of the day, both on dirt, on long sweepers, and I'm getting about 42 mpg combined. So we're not quite at 50, but guys, if you're looking for fuel economy, this is not the right bike. Now you guys know this. What makes the GS famous is, of course, the boxer engine, which means that the pistons go out like this, low center of gravity. But what makes this one different is it's got what BMW calls shift cam. In other words, variable valve timing, and that leads to better fuel economy according to BMW and more low-end torque. Like most GS's, it still has a 6-speed manual transmission, and no, there's no reverse gear, even though with a bike that weighs almost 600 pounds wet, sometimes you wish there was. One of the coolest things about this BMW, of course, is right here. Start it up, very high resolution screen comes to life, and then you have just a series of different pages that you can see that tell you everything about this motorcycle, including things like how many miles to empty, your tire pressure, when it's time to service the vehicle. Then of course you can use this little wheelie, and the cool thing about this wheel is not only can you scroll up and down, but you can scroll left and right as well. Check it out. 42.7 mpg so far. I've got a range of 205 miles. My tires are a little overinflated if you ask me, especially for doing dirt, but in general, there's a lot of information. Now the other cool thing, of course, is the ability to change different drive modes. That's with this button right here. So you can see I've got Road, I've got Dynamic Pro, I've got Enduro Pro, and what that does, of course, is it turns off ABS on the rear wheel. It allows the bike then to brake while building dirt up in front of the wheel, because you don't want ABS on a dirt road. It also changes the throttle characteristic. It basically makes it a lot more dirt friendly. And then of course when you get back on the road, you can hit rain if it's raining and then go back to the road. It's a really cool feature, and it's very, very useful, and it's much different from the old days when you actually had to manually turn your ABS off. Now the great thing about a GS is that it is basically an overgrown dirt bike. It's incredibly smooth. The horizontally opposed engine puts all that weight down low. And now with BMW's version of variable valve timing, it's much easier to just kind of have it putt along at this speed. All that torque, all that weight at the bottom of this bike is great for the center of gravity. Now in this loose stuff, it's a little bit scary because you've got this 600-pound bike that's basically doing its own thing. And the trick to riding a GS, I think, is just loose. Let the bike work. And you kind of stand up and then let it do all the hard stuff. you guys may be wondering, what's the difference between the regular GS and this, the Adventure? There's one big difference, and well, it's right there. This is one of the widest bikes I've ever ridden, because the GS Adventure has a 7.95 fuel tank, whereas the regular GS has about 5.3 gallons. That means that this bike can go about 300 miles on a tank full, whereas the regular GS about 200, give or take. Now, there are a lot of cool things on this bike. Heated grips, those are now standard, of course, and gosh, once you've gone with heated grips, it's hard to go back. And the bike in general has a lot of customability. So there are different paint colors, there are different options. I would say there are hundreds of different options that you can choose from. There are different seat configurations. This GS Adventure, of course, has these driving lights, or are they off-road lights? We've got BMW branded brakes on the front, and then for some reason in the back here we've got Brembo branded brakes. Now you can get your Adventure with either road tires or knobbies like I have here, and new for 2019 is the way that the headers basically go into the exhaust pipe. They've shortened up a little bit to make it a little bit more friendlier for emissions, so that the exhaust is a little hotter by the time it gets to the catalytic converter. Of course, you also have full front suspension. There it is, hiding under there. That's a typical GS setup. You got your two radiators, and back here you have your single rear shock, which is now electronically adjustable to whatever setting you choose. There really isn't any sort of terrain that you don't feel this bike can tackle. It's one of those bikes where it's more about your skill as a rider and less about the BMW's ability as a dirt bike. Having said that, it's pretty incredible to be able to get on a dirt bike, like let's call it a fat dirt bike, and just do that. This GS is sort of the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles, and even though it's a big and tall bike, BMW has thought of that. For instance, under the seat is, well, the usual stuff, but what makes it cool is you can actually change the ride height of the motorcycle from tall to high with this very thoughtful feature. It allows you to change the seat height. Now, if that's not enough, let's say you're short, and I'm not, I'm kind of taller, so this is a good sized bike for me. What BMW has introduced in this year is the ability to auto level the bike. So in previous models, the bike could either be tall, low, or somewhere in the middle. This one has an auto feature where once you get on the bike, it figures out exactly how much you weigh and then adjusts the suspension so that it's, well, the perfect height for you. And that's a pretty cool feature. Let's take it on the road and see how it does on the road. Sense you get riding this on the road is it's much happier on the road than it is in the dirt. I'd say this is probably about 70% road bike, 30% dirt. This is pretty cool. You can also then use this to either disengage the ABS, or better yet, you can also use it, check this out, to have the electronic shock in the back go auto, dynamic, road, dynamic. Let me swap over here to the ABS, to the auto shock. Right now I've got it in auto setting, but you can also put it in manual setting. So a lot of adjustability, a lot of electronics. You can control everything from your windshield height. Of course, that's manual. The other cool thing for 2019 is that this TFT screen now comes standard, as does probably one of my favorite features of the bike, and that's right here. Yep, that's the brake. But now if you just tap it twice, you've got automatic hill hold. It competes with bikes like the big KTM Adventure. Now that bike is more of a dirt bike that's been tuned for the street, whereas this GS, let's face it, because BMW is more of a road company than an off-road company, is more of a street bike that can go on the dirt. I would say this bike is about 70% street worthy and 30% dirt worthy, whereas the KTM, let's flip that around. They're both big, heavy bikes, but BMW and KTM come at them from kind of two different points of view. Now Honda, with its Africa twin, somewhere in the middle. Probably the best thing that happens when you're out here on the road is that weight of the bike just melts away. When you brake, it doesn't dive. I gotta tell you, I do love this automatic leveling active suspension in the back. You know, as I've been riding today, I've been thinking to myself, what are the inherent compromises of having the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles? For instance, if you have a Hellcat, you could probably take it and carve canyons with it, but there are better vehicles to do that. Same thing with the Jeep. You could probably take a Wrangler around the world, but there are probably better vehicles to do that. So inherently, when a motorcycle does it all, it's not perfect at one thing. But if you want a motorcycle that you could ride on the weekend, or you could ride from Colorado to Maine, this is certainly your bike. The GS 1250 is already on sale at your local BMW dealership. The Adventure starts at about 19 and then goes up to about 25. If you load it up with everything, I'm talking about saddlebags and the right paint job, if you get the HP version, it can get up to about $30,000 quite easily. I mean, this is a vehicle that costs about as much as a small luxurious crossover. But then again, can a small luxurious crossover go around the world? And the answer, of course, is probably, but not with as much fun or with as much style as this new BMW. As always, this is Roman reporting for TFL Off-Road. Check out TFLoffroad.com for more news, views, and of course, real world reviews. See you guys next time. Ciao. The other thing I've been wondering about is, do most people actually take a GS off-road? I've done a lot of dirt biking, and I think I've seen one GS in all the times I've been out in the dirt. This is the kind of bike that, well, it's kind of like the G-Wagon in a lot of ways. It's very expensive, it's very capable, but at the same time, it's a bike, just like the G-Wagon is an off-roader, that most people will never take off-road. And let's face it, I talked about the Hellcat before. Most people won't take a Hellcat to the drag strip. Will most people take a Porsche to the track? Probably not. I don't think most people take the GS off-road. But the good news is, if you have to during the zombie apocalypse, you can. Yeah. Hey, can you help me lift it? 1, 2, 1, 2, thanks. All right, thank you. All right, take two. Like I said, heavy bike.